Hello, this is Sondra Oster Baras bringing you a few words of Bible from the heart of Biblical Israel. This week's Torah portion is a double portion. It is Tazria and Metzora, and it has a great deal of rules also having to do with purities and all kinds of skin diseases, and one of which that begins already in chapter 13 at the beginning of the double portion, and is again picked up towards the second part of the double portion, is the illness or skin issue called leprosy. Well, actually, leprosy is a mistranslation. It is called tzara'at in Hebrew. Leprosy, as we know it today, this more technically known as Hansen's disease. This is not Hansen's disease. It doesn't look like it. It's different. It's not all the same. It has different colored things on the skin, rashes or whatever, oozing, different colors, but no loss of limbs. It's a completely different disease. And one of the things that is very important to understand, let's read the beginning of chapter 13. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, when a person has on the skin of his body a swelling, a rash, or a discoloration, and it develops into a scaly affection on the skin of his body, it shall be reported to Aaron the priest, or to one of his sons the priest. And it continues then to talk about what needs to be done, what Aaron and the priests are going to do. Now, clearly, this is not a medical disease, because if it were a medical disease, then you'd go to a doctor, or usually also the Bible doesn't get involved in medical diseases. This is a spiritual disease with a physical ramification, and therefore it is also a question of purity and impurity, and therefore when this kind of thing shows up, Aaron or the high priest of the time are the ones who are going to determine what needs to be done. Is this kind of issue? Do they need to be in isolation? Do they need to purify themselves? And it's a very defined thing. They go, they're in isolation, they have a week, and then they purify themselves, and it's done. Now, there have been many commentaries about what is this exactly? What is it a punishment? What is it from? And our sages are unified in the conclusion that this type of tzara'at, this kind of skin issue, is a punishment. And it can be for a number of different wrongdoings. And in fact, our sages look at different times in the Bible when there's a story about wrongdoing, and then learns from that, and that a story about a wrongdoing that results in this skin affliction, tzara'at, and then learns from that what was the wrongdoing, and maybe this is the type of wrongdoing that will bring on the tzara'at. And one of the most commonly thought of wrongdoings is telling of gossiping or saying bad things about somebody. Something that in Hebrew is referred to as lashon hara, speaking ill of somebody. And the reason that is, the story that it bases on is from Numbers chapter 12, and is the story of Miriam speaking to Aaron about Moses. And the result of that, of course, is that she is afflicted with this tzara'at, and then Moses prays. This is in Numbers 12. Moses prays, and she is healed. She has to be out of the camp for a week. The journey of the entire nation is delayed by that week, and then they move on. Now, the reason it's seen as here from this story as a punishment for gossip, or for speaking ill about somebody, is because it begins at the beginning that Miriam and Aaron, or it's actually interpreted that because Miriam's name is said first, that it's Miriam who initiates the conversation, and therefore she's the one who is punished. But it's the very fact that they're speaking about Moses in a negative way that is in itself the wrongdoing. On the other hand, there's another wrongdoing that is referred to, and that is arrogance, that somebody can also get this skin affliction if they're arrogant. And there are a few examples of that. One of them is the story of Naaman. Naaman is a story that shows up in 2 Kings, chapter 5. It's a wonderful story, by the way. If you don't remember the story, go and read it. It's really, really a very, very special story. The story, briefly, is that there's a general in Aram, and he is terribly afflicted by this tzarat, and there is a slave girl who is an Israelite, and she is a slave girl in Aram, a slave to this general's wife, and she suggests that he go to this famous prophet Elisha in Samaria, and that he can help. And so he goes to this, and there's a wonderful, wonderful encounter. I mean, the story goes on. I'm not going to go into the whole story, but do read it if you forgot it. But there's this. He then goes to Elisha, and when he shows up, now Elisha is sitting inside, and basically he doesn't go out to Naaman. Doesn't meet him. God doesn't go out to him. He sends a messenger, and then he just sends out. He says, "Well, this is what you need to do." And he doesn't get up, and he doesn't come and see him. And this, of course, makes Naaman very angry. This is what he says. But Naaman was angered and walked away. I thought, he said, he would surely come out to me and would stand and invoke the Lord his God by name and would wave his hand toward the spot and cure the affected part. He's also particularly annoyed that the cure that Elisha is telling him to do is to go bathe in the Jordan. And his response to that, are not the Amanah and the Farfar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? I could bathe in them and be clean. And he stalked off in a rage. This is arrogance. This man is personally arrogant. He is deeply offended that Elisha doesn't come up and show him his due. Welcome, Mr. General. Welcome. I welcome you to my home. He doesn't do that, and he's angry. And the other thing is he has a national arrogance. What? He thinks that the river of Jordan, this little puny little river in the land of Israel, has more purifying qualities than the rivers of Damascus, these great big rivers that we have there. This is arrogance. And Elisha knows that Naaman is coming to him out of arrogance. And one of the things, it's not just a cure. And this whole story, he's going to bring Naaman to completely get rid of his arrogance and to recognize it as the God of Israel, that is this great God, and Elisha is his prophet. And that is part of the lesson that Elisha is showing him. He's not going to get up and go to the door and greet him, because he needs to bring him down out of his arrogance, not feed his arrogance. I think if we take this idea of arrogance and we go back and review the story in Numbers 12 with Miriam, we will see that here too there is this idea of arrogance. Because what it is that Miriam is saying about Moses, he's saying, has the Lord spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us as well? They are jealous of the superior status of Moses. And they say, but we are also prophets. And of course, God there kind of puts them down a rung and says, no, you cannot compare your level of prophecy with the level of prophecy of Moses that God speaks to, face to face. And of course, this is what God says to him. So I think if we go back to our current Torah portion, the double portion of Tazria and Metzora that has so much about this spiritual affliction, a physical affliction of tzarat, I think what our Bible is trying to tell us is that it is indeed a spiritual affliction, and it is for a wrongdoing. And if we are arrogant, it will indeed cause us to be impure. The arrogance itself, what we see, the spots that we see on our skin are just a physical manifestation of an impurity that we have allowed into our souls. Because when we are arrogant, when we think we're better than somebody else, we are actually muddying our souls. And what we need to do is purify them. Have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
I hope you enjoyed that video. And we'd like to be sure you're getting all of our video content. So just click on the subscribe button below, as well as on the notification bell. And that way you will have easy access to all our material. We look forward to staying in touch with you. God bless you, and have a wonderful day.